something happened to me that, well, I'll just get into it, and you'll see where I'm going with this. So today I want to share something that I think many people in this place need to hear. And I know people might say, well, geez, that's kind of arrogant to say, Rick, and that's kind of prideful and haughty for you to say. How do you know I need to hear this? Well, I know because God, by His Holy Spirit, woke me up at 1:52 a.m. this morning to tell you this, what I'm going to talk about today. Let me explain it. Every week I pray and I pray and I pray and I ask God, what do you want me to speak this week? What do people need to hear? God, what's going to be fresh and real and relevant to people, and what can minister to them? And sometimes God kind of shows things to me instantly, and sometimes it can be through the process of the week, and then sometimes it can even be in the early wee hours of the morning. I feel like God will wake me up out of a sleep, and that God does that because I believe that while we're asleep, a lot of times, hopefully, our mind is at rest. And my mind is open to hear, and God can speak to me, and God can tell me things. And I've learned as a minister for 25, 26 years now, that when God does that to me, used to, I would kind of like, I kind of hear what you're saying, or kind of see what you're saying, God. And then I would go back to sleep. And then I would wake up 3 or 4 hours later, and I'd be like, man, what was that? I cannot remember. So I've learned now when that happens, I just instantly get up and I start writing it down. Because I feel like God, it's almost like it's almost like a computer download. I don't know how to explain it. But it's like God's Spirit speaking to my spirit and saying, okay, Rick, you asked all week long what you want me to share, so here it is. So I was literally up at 1:52 a.m., and I had a whole different message prepared, and it was currently 2:20 a.m. as I am writing these words to you this morning. So I know that more than just a few people here today need to hear this, because God wanted you to hear it so much that He woke me up out of a dead sleep and began pouring it into my spirit like downloading a computer, and it just begins opening up to me. And I don't know if you've ever had the experience, but it's like scriptures and themes and pictures and videos, and it's like, oh yeah, I see what you're saying, God. That all goes together. And I know in that instant that it's important, and not to wait, and to get up and write it down and put it down on paper. And while it's all fresh in my mind, while it's all current, and before I go back to sleep and forget it, because now I'm almost 50 and I forget things even when I'm awake. So if you're there, I'm with you. I constantly forget things. I live by my calendar on my phone, and I wish they had like 4 or 5 reminders. Our phone app only has like 2, right, on our calendars. And I can have 2 set and still forget that I need to do something. So, what we're going to talk about this morning are 2 different words, and we're going to really dive into these because it's really powerful and it's really important. And words are powerful, words are important, and I really want you to just hear what God's Spirit is speaking today, and hopefully I can bring this out in a way that is relational to you, that's practical to you, and help you understand what God is speaking today. Before I get into it, I'm going to pray. Lord, I come before you this morning, and I pray you use these lips of clay, God, to speak your word. It's not me, it's not what I have to say, God, but it's what you have to say and what your word says and who you are. And God, I just feel like this is just a somewhat of a prophetic word today for people. That people need to hear this, and people need to understand that God is, and people just need to really grab a hold of it. And so, God, I pray that you allow it to come out the way you want it to, that your Holy Spirit speaks to us. In Jesus' name, amen. So the name of the message today is perception. Perception. And I want us to kind of look at the definition of the word, because words are important. So what is perception? And I told Colby, I said, you're going to like the first part of this message because it's like psychology 101. So he's like into stuff like that. So hopefully we can get it in here. So perception is a result of perceiving or observation. It's a perception. It's a mental image. It's a concept. It's an awareness of the elements of the environment through physical sensation. Physical sensation interpreted in the light of experience. It's quick, acute, and intuitive cognition, or a capacity for comprehension. Perception. Have you ever thought about this word, perception? Perception is a funny thing. because it's relative to each one of us. How I perceive is relative to me. Two people can be in the exact same situation and perceive two exactly opposite outcomes. That's why eyewitness testimony is so unreliable in court cases. Thank you, ID Channel, because I learned that from ID Channel. ID Channel fans out there? I'm an ID Channel fan. Sherry doesn't like it, but I'm an ID Channel fan. I like watching all the investigations and how they figure it out. That's why eyewitness testimony is so unreliable, because 2 or 3 or 4 or 10 or 50 different people can see the same exact situation unfold in front of them, and each one has their own unique perception of what went on and how it went down, and you'll get completely opposite, opposing stories or opposing views of what happened in that situation, because perception is so relative to each one of us. What we perceive to be reality is really reality to us. I don't know if you've ever spent time thinking about this, but the way you perceive circumstances, the way you perceive your life, the way you perceive your work environment, your family, whatever it may be in every situation, your perception of it, which is uniquely your perception, is your reality. What I perceive to be true is true to me. That's why somebody can send you a text and say, hey, how are you doing? And you take it as like, hey, how are you doing? And you show it to somebody else and you're like, do you take it that way? And they're like, no, I just take it as, hey, how are you doing? I worked with a guy one time and one of our big bosses walked by and he said, hey guys, how's it going? And we got on past my big boss, and I just said, oh, we're good, how are you? We got on past it, and the guy I worked with stopped, and he turned around and he goes, what do you mean by that? I was like, I think he meant, hey, how are you guys doing? He's like, no, Rick, no. It's always a conspiracy. They're always out to get you. It's not like that. It was a, hey, how are you guys doing? Like, why aren't you guys working? Why aren't you doing something? I totally didn't perceive it that way. I just thought he was being nice and said, hey, how are you guys doing? So perception is this thing that's so uniquely ours. You can say it like this. Perception is what you believe. It is what you become. What you believe is what you become. So your perception of life and your perception of reality, as you believe it in your mind and your personal experience and your personal interaction with the environment, it is what you will become. We are constantly, every day in our minds, interpreting, constructing, observing, interacting with our environment, our situation, our circumstances, and all that combined creates this thing called perception, which in turn creates our reality. This is real to me. This is my life. This is my circumstance. This is my situation. It's totally real to me, and you can take another person and bring them in that same situation or that same circumstance, and they'll be like, well, no, I don't see it like that. How do you get that out of it? I don't. Does it make sense that your perception is your reality? But this thing about this word perception is that it's fickle. It's not concrete. It changes. It can be very unstable. And it can lead us to believe things that are actually, factually, not true. Things that are even actually false and not even close to reality in some cases. Perception run wild can let us lead lives that are really just factually untrue. They're not even reality in some cases. And you look at people and you say, well, I don't know how you look at your life like that, because that's not what I see. But to those people, their perception is reality. My mom had Alzheimer's. Terrible, awful disease. I had never experienced anybody close to it. But as my mom progressed in Alzheimer's, her perceptions changed. And she saw me as little Rick. I was still a 10-year-old kid. And so when I would come in, she would say, well, you're big Rick, but where's little Rick? And I'd say, no, Mom, I am Rick. I grew up. But her mind from this disease started changing her perception. And so finally one time I came in and she said, "Hey, where's little Rick? You're big Rick, but where's little Rick?" And I said, "Mom, little Rick's in here. I ate him and he's in here and he lives in me now." She's like, "Oh, you're so silly." But in her mind, you couldn't argue with her. If she knew that little Rick was not at the house, you could try to convince her all you want, but her perception was her reality. Perception is fickle, but it is also very powerful. What my perception is dictates to me what my reality is. And therefore what I believe to be true is what I become, and it forms every corner of my life. Every corner of everything I interact with, my perception is what dictates what my reality is, which therefore I become. You got it? That's the psychology lesson. Now you know this is God because Rick ain't that deep. I'm telling you. This just all came to me at 2 o'clock this morning. As a matter of fact, while I was typing this out, spell checker was correcting me because ain't a word. And it was saying ignore, ignore, ignore. That's how deep I am. I still say ain't. But this thing, perception. Our perception of God dictates what I become in God. If I perceive God to be a certain way, then that's the way I will approach God, and that's the way I will become in my walk with God, and that's the way I'll see God, and it will affect every part of my Christian walk because I see God in this perception. So let's say I see God in a certain way as God being small or weak or powerless or unstable. And I'm not saying that we just mentally just say, "Oh, well, God's little." It's a subtle thing. And if we don't really take a step back and look at it, we may not even understand that our perception of God is that He's small. Then I will become the person who doesn't believe God can help me. Because I have this perception of this God, and it's not like I look at God and I make Him small, but it's just the way I live my life because I perceive God as this God that's distant and far away, and He's small and He's little, and He's not really concerned with my life and my circumstances. And so I live my life according to that perception. And so I believe God, but I believe in God, but God is too small to really fix me or my problems. He's there. I believe in Him. I think I'm going to go to heaven someday. But you know, He's just small in my life. He's not a huge part of my life. I go to church every once in a while. I read the Bible every once in a while. I flip through and hear a Christian song every once in a while. And I know God is there, but He's just kind of on the edge of my life. He's just kind of small. And sadly, saints, that's a lot of Christian people in America today. They're Christians. They love God. God's real to them, and they know God's going to go to heaven, or I'm going to go to heaven with God. And, you know, He's there, but He's just kind of a small part of my life. And they really don't even understand it. They don't do it on purpose, but it's because of this perception they have of God. Now, if we have this perception of God as that He's small and powerless and unstable and untrustworthy, and I just have to, do a lot of it on my own, I will see God as something rather than someone. Oh man, Rick, that's good. I know, right? I will see God as something rather than someone. The big man upstairs. The big guy. He's up there. He'll take care of it. I don't know. The big guy kind of sounds like something rather than someone. And He will just be kind of a shelf ornament in my life. Just think about it. Just kind of a shelf ornament in my life. I pick Him up sometimes. I dust Him off. I look at Him. Every once in a while I pray, just, more so when I feel like it. And it's just kind of this thing where God is this shelf ornament in my life, and He's just kind of there, pick him up, I dust him off, I look at him, we talk every once in a while. You know, it's not a big deal. Put him back on the shelf. You know, when I need him, I might talk to him, we'll see. He's there. He's small. But see, I've got problems, and I've got situations, and I've got circumstances, and man, they are big in my life. And I can't waste my time spending my time with this little God on the shelf of my life, and when I've got the bigger things to deal with. I mean, I have mortgage payments. I have, you know, insurance. My kids are sick. I got to take them to the doctor. I mean, there's like real things in my life that I got to deal with. And, you know, I got to get up and go to work, and I'm tired, and my back hurts, and my knees hurt, and my feet hurt, and, you know, I'm getting older, and every time I get out of bed, I sound like Rice Krispies. I snap, crackle, pop. I mean, you know, there's just kind of bigger things in life, Rick, than God. And so, you know, he's there. I just don't waste my time on him much because it's just not that big. Now, when we do that, our perception is that God is just this small part of it, and it can create two different scenarios in our lives. Here's the first one. We can create the perception that life is difficult. Life is hard. It's just one bad thing after another. It's this never-ending grinding that I have to get up and walk through every day, waiting, yearning, longing to get through the day, get home, do dinner, do some laundry, put the kids to bed so I can get back to bed and say, thank you, God, I survived another one. We wake up the next day and it's Groundhog Day. And we do it all again. And we say, oh, okay, well, you know, we become the Eeyore of the world. Life is hard. Life is sad. Life sucks. How did I end up on the wrong line? Life beats me down. Life is gray and gloomy. It's a perception issue. I see God as this little God who's just kind of on the outskirts of my life, or just a little ornament on a shelf. And it creates this perception reality of me, of my life, that says, you know what? Blood. I mean, it's just gray and gloomy and and it's Groundhog Day, and I get up and do this over and over and over again. Anybody know how many stairs you walk up to your workplace? Anybody know how long the elevator takes to get from one floor to the next? Or does anybody know, whatever it is, because you do it so many times in a day? Oh, here we go. 13 steps. God, that's why it was my thing. I hate stairs. I've got bad knees. I was an elevator guy for 25 years, 26 years. It wore my knees out. My knees are shot. I hate stairs. You know how you go on vacation and there's one thing you will not do on vacation because you hate it so bad? Mine's stairs. I walked stairs for 26 years. I will go clear to the other end of the cruise ship. I'll go to the other end of the hotel, but I'm taking the elevator. Bless God. I hate stairs. Well, lo and behold, they put the elevator guys upstairs in a building. When that's what you do all day. So every morning I'd walk up and face these 13 steps every day. And every night I'd walk out and face the 13 steps. Ugh, I hate these stairs. Ugh. Right? Anybody know anybody like that? I'm sure it's probably not anybody like sitting, no nudging or anything like that. Probably nobody sitting here, but there are people who live their lives like that. Maybe, possibly, you've even seen that person in the mirror. Where it's just like another stinking day. Whew. I challenge to say it's a perception. It's a perception issue. It's an Eeyore perception. God is not that big. God is not that important. My life, my circumstances, my this, my that, that's really what drags me down. And it's this Eeyore mentality. The other thing that a perception of a small God can create in our lives is this idea that I have to control everything. God is just not big enough to take care of me. God is just not big enough to take care of my family. God is just not big enough to do all the things I need Him to do. So I have to do it. I mean, I have to. That's just the way it is. It all falls on me. I'm a single parent. There's nobody to make up for it. Or I'm the one guy that knows how to do it all. Or I'm the one lady that does it all. And, it just all falls on me. And it's just because, God, what are you talking about, God, Rick? I got the whole department on my shoulders at work. And if I don't do my job, then everybody else underneath me is waiting on me to do my job. And God is just kind of the shelf on that, on the shelf of my life over there because He's just not that important. He's just not that big. So it's all on me. I get to carry it. This can lead to an almost schizophrenic lifestyle. We become what I call the nervous Nelsons or the nervous Nellies of the world. You ever met these people? A nervous Nelson or a nervous Nellie? Who are just nervous and just go. You're like, dude, take a breath. Chill out. I used to have to deal a lot with people at the university, and there was this one guy in this one building, and he was like that all the time. I mean, as soon as you walked up to him, he'd be like, what's wrong with the elevator? And it just instantly, like, man, you're making me nervous. Calm down. The nervous Nellies of the world. Then they have control. I got to control everything because, God's just on the shelf of life. And, yeah, He's not big enough to help me. And, man, I got to have control. I got to have it planned out. I got to do this and I got to do that. I got to be in control because I have to. I must do it. I'm the only one that's doing it. I'm all alone. Look around. There's nobody to help me. I have no help. And no one does it as good as I can. Why would I ask anybody else to do it? Because they'll just screw it up and I'll have to go back and redo it every time. So, you know what? I'll just do it myself. It's just easier that way. Come on, I know I'm talking to some people in here. Should have just done it myself. And then we all take a step back and say, man, why am I so exhausted? Why do I feel like this life is just like this 700-pound gorilla I carry around all the time? I challenge you to say it's your perception. Your perception's off. Your perception of God is that He's too small, too weak, too powerless for me to spend and put my time into because He's just not that big and He can't help me that much. And so I either am the Eeyore of life or I'm the nervous Nelson of life and I just got to go and I just don't have time for it. And man, I'm exhausted and I get 15 hours sleep and I wake up exhausted and then I go back to bed and I take melatonin and everything else to help me sleep and then I caffeinate in the morning so I can get the thing going again. And why do we do that? Our perception. It's the perception. Our perception of God is to be small and weak when actually the truth is absolutely 180 degrees the opposite of that. God told me at about 2:30 this morning to tell you that He is big. Like big. Like huge. Like gigantic. Massive. Large and in charge. He's the bomb. He's the beast. He's the man. He's way bigger than you can ever imagine. He's way more powerful than we ever give Him credit for. He is massive, huge, beyond all ideas. Now you can think I'm crazy, and you can say, well, I just don't know about that, Rick. I'm not sure God does stuff like that, but I'm going to tell you something that happened to me years ago. I worked third shift, and I was on my way to work one night, and I was going down Arlington Road, which at that time was Highway 46. And I'm going into work on this 2-lane highway, and I'm just praying, and I'm just kind of talking to God, and I was like, God, how big are you? I mean, just like, how big are you, God? I'd just love to see how big you really are. I mean, I know you're big, and I know you're powerful, and I know you're awesome and mighty, but I'd just love to see it sometime, just how big you are. And you can think I'm nuts or whatever, I don't care. But just as sure as I'm standing here looking at you today, I came around the corner, and in front of me was this beautiful night sky. It was about 9:30 at night. Beautiful, starry night sky. And in this whole spectrum of everything I could see, there was like this shadow of a person. But I could only see from about right here to here. And it was just like one eye, about half an eye. And it was massive, huge, filled the whole sky. And God said, that's how big I am. I'm holding the earth in front of my eye. That's how big I am, Rick. You can think I'm nuts. I don't care. But it was real to me. And I was like, holy cow. You are huge. You are huge, God. And it totally changed my life. I totally saw God in this whole different perspective. I totally had a different perception of who God was, and it changed my life because I realized that God was way bigger than I'd ever gave him credit for. It was like he was holding the earth in the eye. But the eye was huge, and it filled the whole sky. That's great, Rick. I'm glad you believe that, and that's your perception of God. But how do I make that my perception? How do I transform and change my outlook on God? Man, am I glad you guys asked that, because that's the question I was waiting for. You change your perception by changing our second word, your perspective. Perspective. Definition of perspective: a mental view, a visible scene, the interrelation in which a subject or its parts are mentally viewed, point of view. The capacity to view things in their true relations or relative importance. Perspective. You change your perception by getting a new perspective. What happened to me that night was I got this new perspective of who God was. I saw God's eye fill the sky. I was like, holy cow, that totally changes my view of how big and awesome and powerful you really are, God. That is amazing. I mean, I knew you were big before, but hey, like, you're that big? And it was like this whole new perspective just filled my life, and it just changed my perception of God. Now, I want to show you how powerful perspective is. Can we bring up the next slide? If you start here, doesn't that just look like a bunch of gibberish? But then if you shift around a little bit and you get the right perspective, check that out. This is how it's drawn in the flat 2D image. That's how they make it look 3D. Pretty cool, huh? You get the right perspective. If I were walking down the sidewalk and saw that, I'd be like, man, what? Some crazy man painted the bench. What were they doing? But oh man, if you get over here and you get the right perspective, that's pretty stinking awesome. Next one. Look at that. But look how it looks on the sidewalk. You see that? That's the 2D image. From the side, it just looks like a big blue glob. But man, you get over here and you get the right perspective. Check that out. Next one. Bottom one. Eh, not so much. It's kind of a big blobby mess. Top one. Oh, somebody laid their baby in the dish. That's pretty cool. Next one. I am not sure what that is. It looks like a big finger. You're picking your nose. I don't know. Okay, next. What's it? Oh, that's what it is. Huh, do you see? Go back one. Do you see how perspective totally revolutionary to your perception? You change your perspective and it changes your perception. Go back the other one. Oh, that totally makes sense. Now I got it. Next one? Or is that it? Okay, that's it. I was looking these up at 2 o'clock this morning. This is what I'm saying. It's like a download. God just like shows me all this stuff. To change your perception, you change your perspective. See, God is not a little trinket on a shelf. God is all the things that I just said earlier. He's big, he's huge, he's gigantic. I mean, he's massive. He's like way bigger than anything we could ever put in front of him. And yet we put God into the corner of our life and say, well, you're over there and I'll talk to you when I need you. But I mean, I've got the bigger things in life, which is my circumstances and the bills and the gas and the car and the flat tire and the brakes and the kids and school and lunches. And I mean, those are all really big things, God. And I just, you're just kind of over there. Your perspective's in the wrong place. Change it. How do you know that, Rick? Well, I want to give you something today. I want to give you can go ahead and get that ready, Christian. I want to give you some perspective today. And it's a little bit long. It's about 12 minutes. But I want you to watch it. And maybe you've seen it, maybe you haven't. But let me just share with you what happened today, okay? We're going to watch a video. This man right here, his name is Louis Giglio. And he is the pastor of a church in Atlanta, Georgia. And he's going to give us some perspective today. But before we get into the video, I'm going to kind of read a couple scriptures because I want to preface it. I'm sorry, Christian, I got ahead of myself. Genesis 1, 3, and 4, I'm getting excited. I'm getting ahead of myself. Genesis 1, 3, and 4, God said, let there be light, and there was light, and God saw the light, and it was good, and God divided the light from the darkness. God said, let there be light. God spoke it into existence. That's how big he is. He don't even have to use his hands. He spoke it and said, let there be light. And whatever the speed of light is, I don't know off the top of my head, it shot out, boom, and it took off. And God spoke it into existence. And scientists have figured out that the universe is still expanding. It's still growing. It's still going out. Why? Because God never said stop. He said, let there be light, and bang. I believe in the Big Bang Theory. I believe God said, let there be light, and there was this big bang, and light existed. And it's never stopped. That's how big God is. Psalm 33:6 says this in the Message Bible. The skies were made by God's command. He breathed the word, and stars popped out. Look at that. God spoke it, and stars popped out. Why are you so excited about that, Rick? I see him up in the sky. Well, you're going to see it in a minute. God didn't lift a finger to create it. He simply spoke it. Now, I don't know about you, but that's pretty stinking impressive for me. I've never been able to walk in the kitchen and look at my plate and say, waffle be made. Bam! And there's a golden waffle. Can't do it. You ever do it? You ever walk up to a flat tire and be fixed? No? Never done it. With the waffle, thank God I can't walk up to a plate and say, waffle be made, because I'd be even bigger than I am today. But you know what? God can. God speaks things into existence. Can you just get a hold of that and think about that for a second? Do you know anyone else that can do that? I don't. If they could, they'd be a billionaire. God spoke planets and stars into existence. And does that sound like some little trinket God that sits on a shelf of my life? Does that sound like some little trinket God that I'm just going to pull down every once in a while and say, okay, yeah, I need to talk to you. I've had kind of a hard week and some things are going on, but yeah, it's been about 27 weeks since my last confession, and yeah, no. No, that's not God. Now back to the video. Sorry, Christian. Louis Giglio pastors a church in Atlanta, Georgia. He also does youth outreaches, and that's where I met him many years ago. As a matter of fact, Christian's like, you know, Louis Giglio's hair is still pretty dark in this video, Dad. And I'm like, yeah, his hair is gray now. It's been a little while ago. And I met him personally at a time when we were at a youth conference, and he held a special youth pastors meeting of about 25 to 30 youth pastors, and he spoke to us years ago. And he says it way better than I can on how big God is. And so we're going to watch this video, and we're going to let you see how big God is with this scripture in mind that God spoke the word and spoke stars into existence. Now, let me get back to what I was going to say. The name of this actual video is called How Great Is Our God. Chris Tomlin is a worship leader at Louis Giglio's church. How awesome is that? I don't know if you know who Chris Tomlin is, but and then his other worship leader is Christian Stanfield, which Christian Stanfield is like a big Christian artist too. I mean, gee, sucks for Louis, right? Oh, who's playing this week? Chris Tomlin or Christian Stanfield? Hey, we've got Paige. That's what I'm talking about, all right? So, Paige comes in this morning and says, you know, I really felt I want to do How Great Is Our God this week. What? Huh, that's kind of like God. He woke me up at 2 o'clock in the morning and said, I want you to show this clip from the video called How Great Is Our God. Then he sends Paige in here and says, by the way, God said, I really want to do How Great Is Our God. Now, I don't know if you believe in God or not or whatever, but I'm telling you what, that's God. That's God. We didn't rehearse it. We didn't anything. As a matter of fact, I told Paige, I'm not one of these ministers who, I don't tell you what I'm going to talk about this week because I don't want everything to be coordinated by us. Right? Some people do that. That's fine, whatever. But I would rather rely on the Holy Spirit to coordinate it. Because when He coordinates it, bam, it's awesome. So we're going to watch this video clip, and it's about 12 minutes. Maybe you've seen it, maybe you haven't. But just give it some time here. Because He's going to show you how big God is. Okay, go ahead, Christian.
So here's a little perspective that sort of changed my life. If the earth were the size of a golf ball, okay, the sun would be 15 feet in diameter. Okay, that didn't seem to move anybody either, so let me try it a different way. Let me just try it just a different way. I thought I might need this, so I brought a golf ball, okay? So all through the evening, this is going to represent Earth, all right? So this is where we are. I need everybody in the building to look as closely as you can and find yourself, okay? When you found yourself, I want you to nod your head so that I know you've located you on the earth, okay? You nodding your head? Okay, you found yourself. If the earth were a golf ball, the sun would be 15 feet in diameter. That's not 15 feet diameter. Can we blow that up just a hair and maybe give them 15 feet diameter? So here's a little perspective for you, okay? Is this working for anybody? Here we are on the earth, and that's the sun. It's so big. It's so big you could put 960,000 Earths inside the sun. So if the earth were a golf ball and the sun were 15 feet in diameter, you could put 960,000 golf balls inside that 15-foot diameter sun. That's enough golf balls, by the way, because I know that seems like a big number, to fill a school bus with golf balls could fit inside the 15-foot diameter sun. It's a massive star, and it's one of hundreds of billions of stars in the Milky Way galaxy, our cul-de-sac in the neighborhood called the cosmos that God has made. It's huge, and we're worshiping a star-breathing God tonight. But I want to tell you about the second star, okay? Because the second star absolutely wrecked my life. I heard about it when I was a high school student here in Atlanta. One of our youth leaders did a talk, and he mentioned this star. I didn't know how to talk to God for about 2 months after I heard about this star. It's called Betelgeuse or Betelgeuse. You can pick your pronunciation. I'm obviously going with Betelgeuse, and Betelgeuse is incredible. Here it is in the night sky. I know it doesn't look incredibly ferocious, but it's 427 light years away, so that's 427 times 5.88 trillion miles away from us right now. Draw it in a little closer with the Hubble Space Telescope, and you can start to get a little bit of the feeling of its intensity, but this is the crazy thing about Betelgeuse. Are you ready for this? Betelgeuse is twice the size. Are you ready? You think I'm going to say twice the size of the sun? Oh no, it's twice the size of the Earth's orbit around the sun, Betelgeuse is. That's crazy. If the Earth were a golf ball, Betelgeuse would be the height of 6 Empire State Buildings on top of each other. No, come on, have you seen the Empire State Building? I mean, maybe what you're going to need to do is gather the family, get a golf ball, get some plane tickets, and fly up to New York. And you're going to go into Midtown, you're going to take your golf ball and put it on the sidewalk outside the Empire State Building. Don't worry about people thinking you're crazy. They're not even going to notice you in New York. You're going to go across the street. You're going to look up at the Empire State Building and imagine 5 more Empire State Buildings on top of the Empire State Building. That's Betelgeuse, and that's the Earth, and somewhere you're on it. You could fit 262 trillion Earths inside Betelgeuse. So if the Earth were a golf ball, that would be enough golf balls to fill up the Superdome with golf balls. 3,000 times. When I heard that as a teenager, that stumped me right there. Because most of my praying had been advising God, correcting God, suggesting things to God, drawing diagrams for God, reviewing things with God, counseling God. The third star, can you go a little bit bigger with me? The third star is called Musifi. Here it is in the night sky. It's that gold star to the top left. We have the big image of it. It's 3,000 light years away, but I just want you to see it in the span of all these little glittering stars so that you know that at times when you look up at night, it is not just twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are. I'm telling you what you are. What you are is intense and huge and massive and ferocious is what you are. And this one used to be called Herschel's Garnet Star. Check it out. If the Earth were a golf ball, Musifi would be the width of 2 Golden Gate bridges end to end. Apparently you're going to need to go from New York to the West Coast. Go to San Francisco with your family and your golf ball. Place your golf ball at the beginning of the Golden Gate Bridge. Go across the bay into Oakland to a high place where you can see the entire Golden Gate Bridge. Another second Golden Gate Bridge will be in your imagination. Span all the way back the 2 Golden Gate Bridges to the very beginning and find your golf ball over there. That's the Earth, and somewhere you're on it. One of the stars in the Milky Way galaxy. It's so big you could fit 2.7 quadrillion Earths inside this one star. Thank you so much. Where have you been all night? Now, quadrillion we have not talked about, and I need to explain this just briefly because I don't know about you, but I do not understand the national debt or any numbers bigger than about $875.28. I get that number. Go bigger than that, I don't know. But you need to understand a quadrillion, okay? Because this star is crazy big. A quadrillion, let's do it this way. Everybody knows a million, right? How many know what a million is? You can kind of get your head around a million. Everybody? All right. You know that a billion is 1,000 million, and a trillion is 1,000 billion, and a quadrillion is 1,000 trillion, right? Everybody knew that? Here's the perspective. This changed my life, right? A million seconds ago, 12 days ago. Isn't that cool? See, that saves you doing that on your little calculator at home, which I dare you to try to do when you get home tonight. But a billion seconds ago, you're thinking, oh my goodness, if it's 12 days ago, I'm going all the way back to like September with you, Louie. This must be crazy, right? How about May 1975 is a billion seconds ago? You're like, whoa, that's a little bit bigger than a million. Oh yeah. A trillion seconds ago, you're like, I'm on the 1800s. No. Christopher Columbus? No. 29,700 BC is a trillion seconds ago. A quadrillion seconds ago, 30,800,000 years ago is a quadrillion seconds ago. We're talking about a really large number, and Musifi is so big, you could put 2.7 quadrillion Earths inside this one star. But it is not even the biggest star we have found. I love science. And science has just brought us the largest star they found. It's called, are you ready for this? Canis Majoris. Now, I'm no linguist, but that's a cool name for the biggest star we've found so far. I think that means the big dog star, and that's exactly what it is. I bring it to you as a little bitty purple, glow just to the right of center there. But Canis Majoris, oh wow, if the Earth were a golf ball, Canis Majoris would be the height of Mount Everest. Thank you. You just saved your family plane fare from California to Kathmandu, Nepal. Almost 6 miles above sea level, the highest point on the planet, and I just dare you to get up there and unzip the parka and pull out your golf ball. You could fit 7 quadrillion Earths inside Canis Majoris. That's enough Earths, if the Earth were a golf ball, to cover the entire state of Texas in golf balls, 22 inches deep. You see the one you're on? Maybe this will help a little bit more. This absolutely blew my mind. Just a little journey through our solar system. Everyone knows our planets and sort of how we fit in to the story here. You see really quickly that we're not even the biggest deal in our own solar system, but as Earth comes by, you have to know tonight that we are living on a privileged planet. Anyone would tell you we're living at one of the most special places, if not the most special place in all of creation. But Neptune comes by and Saturn and then Jupiter, and you're like, okay, we're not all that big, even in our own little cul-de-sac. But just notice the blue dot fading away is not the Earth. That's Neptune. The Earth has gotten too small to see anymore. Sirius comes by. Little plug for satellite radio. Not the biggest star, but the brightest star that we have found so far. Pollux, which we didn't mention. Arcturus. Such a beautifully named one, Regal. But then the one that messed me up. Our third star, Musifi. Musifi's cousin, W Cephei. And Canis Majoris. And do you know that you couldn't come up here right now with a Sharpie and make a mark on the screen that would approximate the size of our sun? You couldn't even do it. I mean, when you look at these in their relative size, we just have to put a little arrow over there that says, if you could put the sun on here, which you can't, it would go somewhere about here. And can you hang on that for me? And when you see this, I don't know what happens to you, but I'll tell you what happens to me. A shrinking feeling comes over me, and it's not a bad shrinking feeling, it's a good shrinking feeling. Because sin, it has a way of shrinking God down in our minds and puffing us up in our own estimation. But just a glance into the universe that God has made resizes everything in a heartbeat. And you realize tonight we are worshiping an unrivaled, uncontested God of all kind of might and power and glory and awe, there's none like him anywhere in all of creation tonight.
All right. I hope that gave you some perspective. I love that. It helps me. When you see something like that, does it make it real to you? Can you see now that your perception has possibly been off because your perspective has been off? As I start to wrap up this morning, I challenge each one of us to get that little trinket of a God off the shelf. Take him off the shelf of our lives and put him in his rightful place. Because see, he's majestic. He's awesome. He's bigger than anything I can ever face. The God that speaks massive stars into existence is also the same loving God that's kind enough to speak to me on this golf ball. Can you just think about that? God speaks these awesome, majestic, heavenly beings into place. He's massive, he's huge, he's beyond what we could ever think of. But he loves us and is kind enough to speak to us too. There's one thing that God wanted you to do today. He wants you to change your perspective. Get your eyes off the circumstances. Get your eyes off of the little things. Get your eyes off the things that drag you down. Get your eyes off the things that weight us down. Get your eyes off of those things and quit making those things so big and God so small, and flip the script. Make God big. Make God massive and huge and majestic and awesome and powerful. And like he said, when you look up in the night sky, don't think twinkle, twinkle, little star. Think massive, massive God. Can you see him this morning? Do you know him? If you were really, really honest with yourself this morning, would you be honest and say, man, I need to make him more than just a trinket on a shelf. I need to make him more than just a little figurine on a shelf in my life. Aren't you tired? Aren't you tired of being Eeyore? Are you tired of being nervous Nelly or nervous Nelson? Aren't you just exhausted with it? Come to Jesus. Come to God. Because if there's one thing he wants you to understand today, is he is way, way bigger than you think he is. Perspective, and it will change your perception, which changes your reality. As the band starts playing here, I'm going to ask us to bow our heads and close our eyes. And I know this is speaking to people here today. I know it by the Holy Spirit. I know it. And we're a family. We love each other, we encourage each other, we build each other up. And hey, listen, I've had to do this in my own life. There are times when I get my focus on the wrong things and I get my perspective in the wrong direction. And I have to change it and say, God, get my eyes back on you. And if that's you this morning, I want you to do something. I want you to come up to this altar and I want you to just present yourself before God. Say, God, change my perspective. Change my perception. I'm tired. I'm worn down. I'm worn out. So if that's you this morning, please don't walk out of here carrying in the same burdens you walked in with. God wants you to give them to him. Please, please, please don't feel embarrassed or ashamed, because we all struggle with it. We all suffer with it. And just come up here this morning and worship God and just take a few minutes and just stand before him and lay it down. Give him a chance.